This is episode 4 of the progress on my Gumball Advent Calendar. The competition is heating up as SilentMode's latest video documents his story and the progress he's made. But while it would be great to show you how much more I've accomplished since last time, things have taken an unexpected turn. After losing my art studio and more this year, the powers that be decided I should also be homeless. Fortunately, I'm not actually homeless, and the last few weeks have been spent preparing to move. However, it means that progress has ground to a halt, and I might not finish everything for the December 1st deadline. In particular, the design and build stages are in jeopardy. The new goal is to have at least a working machine, so let's hold off on the laughing for now. This episode is about the holy grail for makers, artists, and content creators: sponsorship. You can exchange the word sponsorship for endorsement, backing, or support. Either way, especially given my circumstances, it would have been great to have some form of help with the Gumball Advent Calendar. I first mentioned the idea for the project at Printed back in May, and I've talked about my experiences there in a previous video. The most valuable exchange I had at the event was with Ruda of Pusha Research, who asked a simple question: what would you want help with? It was worth pondering, and I'll provide my answers in the context of this project. We're assuming that sponsorship is actually possible for yours truly, and that I haven't been blacklisted again. You've already seen my use of 3D printing for prototyping, so you might think I should ask one of these companies to send me a printer. This is the number one thing people in the 3D printing space pursue, whether they're wannabe content creators or want free stuff. Here's the thing, I already have several 3D printers. These range from my oldest, a Creality Ender 3 Max, to my most recent, the A1 Mini. I should also mention that I've even been lucky enough to win a 3D printer in 2 separate contests. While it would be great to receive the latest trendy model from whichever company, the fact is I don't have room. In fact, due to the challenge with SilentMode's lab, there's actually less of a 3D printing requirement. More on that later. Okay, how about asking for sponsored filaments? This is more conducive than receiving a new printer, though it makes a lot more sense to ask once the design is complete. I would know how much to ask for, as well as having a better idea of specific colors to use. But just like with printers, I have a whole bunch of 3D printing filament, more than I would ever use. They take up even more space than my LEGO collection. With that said, I'd still be open to using sponsored filament if the supporting company has a specific color in mind for the Advent Calendar. Other useful items to ask for are tools and additional materials for 3D printing. Everything from snips and deburrers for finishing models, to nozzles, print beds, and other consumables for my printers. I might also need some adhesive for gluing parts together. Or how about one of those tools for adding threaded inserts? Electronics has by far been the scariest part of the project and the area where I could have used the most help. Along with the Freenove Ultimate Starter Kit mentioned in the last episode, I've gone ahead and bought more components needed for the Advent Calendar as advised by ChatGPT. By far the most expensive components were this 12-volt motor and motor driver, and I could really have used some help with these. Thinking about the support I would ask for at this stage, I could use some help with designing a printed circuit board or PCB. While I can eventually put one together, it's the first time I've had to do it with 12 volts of power, and I don't want to get it wrong. Wouldn't it also be great to announce that a video was sponsored by that PCB company, by the way, or even some other fabrication company? Many of them provide the option to produce the board with components already populated. Still, I think it would be more rewarding to add them myself. Speaking of which, although I already have some basic equipment, I could ask for more. Perhaps a more advanced soldering iron, consumables such as solder or flux, or something else to aid in assembling the circuit. Although the original concept involves a multi-part build, the Gumball Advent Calendar isn't a LEGO project, nor would I consider asking the company for support. Long story short, I'm convinced that they and their mainstream hobby space would only be interested in the project if someone else's name was attached. You might be aware of alternative construction toy brands, which have become far less taboo in recent years. For the most part, they offer something different to LEGO's official releases while having just as good quality elements. There's definitely room for collaborating with one of these brands, especially if they produce something that fits the concept. What would be even better is collaborating with another builder, whether in the mainstream LEGO space or not. How awesome would it be to have someone else's multi-part build featured with the Gumball Advent Calendar? Along with providing mutual exposure for myself and the builder, it opens the doors for an annual Advent Calendar event. You see, that's how I think, in accordance with my 6th rule for living. Because I'm documenting the process through YouTube videos, another important consideration is content creation. We'll assume there's some truth in the advice you'll get looking for help with producing videos, which at best is geared more toward emulating popular YouTubers, and at worst is a complete lie. I would straight up ask for a 4K camera, an expensive microphone, and professional lighting. No, I'm not talking about the typical colored background lighting because I have an identity. While I'm at it, one of those gaming chairs would really be nice. But let's be serious for a second. Even though a lot of time is spent making these videos, which takes time away from the project, I've been accused of producing low quality content, whatever that means. I would definitely ask for and would even challenge anyone to provide help with video editing. At the very least, it would be interesting to see what they come up with and how much better their content performs. Similarly, I'd also ask for help with promotion, whether it's working with someone on search engine optimization or using AI tools to reach a wider audience. Ultimately, working on a cool project doesn't mean anything unless equally cool people know about it and they tell other cool people who tell more cool people who tell you. This part is for those special people who think I shouldn't have, let alone earn, any money. To demonstrate what real creativity looks like, here are some other ways I came up with that someone could support the project. Since I no longer have an art studio for the time being, I could really use a dedicated workspace, either to work on developing the Gumball Advent Calendar, recording and editing videos, or both. Similarly, access to a co-working space or a hackerspace where some form of knowledge exchange could take place would be great. Although I own 3D printers, someone could offer their 3D printing services. This could be to produce parts more quickly, achieve better quality, or use exotic or industrial grade materials. To enhance the creativity and excitement of the Gumball Advent Calendar, I considered using transparent acrylic or plexiglass for the frame instead of 3D printing the entire structure. Support in the form of sponsorship for the material or assistance with preparation would be greatly appreciated. I already have a set of empty, transparent gumballs for the final project. However, I would be open to someone offering a different set of gumballs, whether in multiple colors or completely opaque. What would really impress is if someone offered a lump sum to add their mark to the project. For example, the option to have their logo featured on the machine, choosing the colors used, or specifying that a certain item be included in the build. It's the easiest thing in the world to be envious of the inner circle receiving free stuff and publicity while you're busting your rear end trying to be noticed. The most important yet often overlooked aspect of sponsorship is that the sponsor wants something in return, and we better be aware of what that is. There are a couple of things to consider. Most companies will only sponsor those who can demonstrate social proof. In other words, how many followers they have, what they look like, and whether they have celebrity potential. More important is understanding how much control the sponsor wants over your project. Are they supporting you to finish it, or are they hiring you to complete it their way? There's a big difference. It's also important to mention that, as with everything else, being sponsored might not result in more likes, views, subscribers, or patrons. Whether people want to admit it or not, this is the age where it's not what you do or how you do it, but who does it. That's why I've coined the hashtag #BlameTheFans. For full disclosure, I haven't approached anyone for sponsorship or support. I wasn't even sure if I'd be working on this project. If you're considering seeking sponsorship, I suggest asking yourself two important questions. Why do you want a sponsor? And should you be sponsored? While I could always use support, I've been self-sufficient long enough not to expect or depend on it because I usually don't get it. The only reason I can think of to accept sponsorship for this project would be if it were impossible to complete the Gumball Advent Calendar on my own. As a final note, remember that unless you're being sponsored, it's your project. By taking on 100% of the risk, you also get 100% of the rewards, including, if the community is worth a damn, the credit. Whether it's called being a sponsor or not, you can support the Gumball Advent Calendar and my work in general through Patreon and the links in the description. And of course, you can help support this video by giving it a thumbs up. Until next time, this is Silent Mode, maker, artist and LEGO enthusiast, encouraging you all to do your thing.